My friends, every morning when we wake up, we are given the greatest gift by God, the gift of life, the gift of another chance, the gift of possibility. But the question is, how many of us truly wake up? I don't mean just opening our eyes. I mean waking up from our doubts, waking up from our fears, waking up from the habits that hold us back. God has already placed unlimited potential within each one of us. But it is our responsibility to rise, to awaken, and to transform that potential into reality. Today, let us talk about how to wake up and change everything. Because when you wake up from within, your entire life changes. My friends, let us begin with the first and perhaps the most powerful shift we can make in our lives. Awakening to gratitude. Gratitude is not just about saying, "Thank you," when something goes right. It is about cultivating an inner state of awareness that allows us to see God's hand in every detail of our lives. Most people wake up in the morning and immediately rush into their problems. They think of the deadlines, the bills, the conflicts, the struggles. But rarely do we pause and acknowledge the simple fact that we woke up. The breath we just took was not guaranteed. Millions of people went to sleep last night and never saw this morning. Yet here we are, alive, breathing, gifted with one more chance. Isn't that enough reason to smile the very first second of the day? Think of it. When you wake up, your eyes open and the light of the world enters. How often do we thank God for the ability to see? There are countless people who long for a single glimpse of their loved ones, who would give anything to see a sunrise or the smile of their child. But we, with perfect vision, complain about the smallest inconveniences. The truth is, we often take for granted what others are desperately praying for. Gratitude is the awakening that makes us realize how blessed we already are. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you're drinking a glass of water after a long hot day. The coolness touches your lips, refreshes your throat, and energizes your body. At that moment, that ordinary glass of water becomes extraordinary. But we rarely pause to think, who gave us this water? Who created rivers, rain, and the cycles of nature that sustain us? Who designed the human body to absorb and benefit from this miracle liquid? Gratitude is looking at even a glass of water and saying, "This is God's kindness." When we practice gratitude, something magical happens. Our focus shifts from what is missing in life to what is present, from what is lacking to what is abundant, from complaints to contentment. And this shift is not small, it changes our entire inner state. Scientists today even confirm what sages have always taught: grateful people are happier, healthier, and more resilient. Gratitude lowers stress, improves relationships, and builds inner strength. But beyond science, gratitude is spiritual. It connects us to God's constant presence in our lives. I remember a story of a man who was always unhappy. No matter what he achieved, he found something to complain about. One day, his friend asked him, "Why are you never satisfied? You have a good home, a good family, enough food, and yet you look miserable." The man replied, "I want more. Life hasn't given me enough." His friend gently said, "You keep focusing on what you don't have, and you are blind to what you do have. Start your day with gratitude, and you'll realize you already live in abundance." The man took his advice, reluctantly at first, but as days passed, he began each morning by listing 3 things he was thankful for. Slowly, his heart softened, his mind calmed, and joy returned to his life. Nothing outside had changed. His job, his house, his situation remained the same. But inside, everything had changed. That is the power of gratitude. You see, gratitude is not about having everything. It's about seeing everything you already have as a gift: the bed you sleep on, the roof over your head, the meal on your plate, the people who love you. These are not small things. These are treasures. And when we recognize them as treasures, we stop living in poverty of the heart. God has already given us more than enough. The problem is not in God's giving, but in our seeing. Let us also understand that gratitude doesn't mean ignoring our struggles. Life has challenges, pain, loss, disappointments. But gratitude teaches us to even find meaning in hardships. When something goes wrong, instead of asking, "Why me?" we can ask, "What is God teaching me through this? How is this shaping me?" This doesn't erase pain, but it transforms pain into purpose. Gratitude makes us resilient because we see even difficulties as part of a larger divine plan. For example, think of a seed buried in the dark soil. From the outside, it looks like the end, but from within, it is the beginning of growth. Similarly, when life places us in dark, difficult times, gratitude helps us trust that God is preparing us for growth. Instead of despair, we hold faith. Instead of resentment, we hold patience. This perspective changes everything. And gratitude is not only for ourselves, it is also for others. How often do we thank the people in our lives, the ones who support us, love us, guide us? Gratitude expressed strengthens relationships. A simple thank you can heal wounds, rebuild trust, and deepen connections. When we show gratitude to people, we are indirectly showing gratitude to God, who placed those people in our path. So I ask you today, when you wake up tomorrow morning, before you rush into the chaos of the day, pause for just 30 seconds. Place your hand on your heart and say, "Thank you, God, for this life, for this breath, for this chance." If you do this daily, your mornings will no longer begin with stress, but with strength. And when your mornings change, your days change. And when your days change, your life changes. Gratitude is not an occasional practice. It is a way of living. It is a lens through which you view the world. It is the awakening that makes every moment sacred. Wake up to gratitude, and you will discover that you already have more than enough to live a joyful, purposeful, and fulfilling life. Because the truth is, when you live with gratitude, you don't just change how you see life, you change life itself. My dear friends, one of the greatest prisons we live in is not made of iron bars or concrete walls. It is built inside our own minds, the prison of fear. Fear is silent, invisible, and yet it holds more people captive than anything else. Think about it. How many times in life have you stopped yourself from doing something because of fear? Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of what others will say, fear of the unknown. These fears are like invisible chains. They don't stop life from moving forward, but they stop us from moving with life. Let us understand something important. Fear itself is not the enemy. Fear is natural. Every human being experiences it. It is a signal, a reminder that something matters to us. But the real problem begins when we allow fear to dominate us, to control our choices, and to dictate our future. Many dreams have died not because they were impossible, but because fear convinced someone not to try. Imagine this: a bird is sitting on a branch. If the branch breaks, does the bird fall? No. The bird has wings. But if the bird forgets its wings and trusts only the branch, then the bird is in danger. In the same way, many of us put our faith in external things, our job, our money, our status. And when those things become uncertain, fear overtakes us. But remember, like the bird has wings, we too have wings, wings of faith, wings of courage, wings of God's strength within us. When you trust those wings, you can face any storm. Fear often whispers, What if you fail? But faith responds, what if you succeed? Fear says, you're not good enough. But faith says, God has already made you enough. The truth is, God has placed infinite potential inside each one of us. But fear builds a wall so high that we can't see our own strength. To break this chain, we need to trust not only in ourselves, but in God's plan for us. When you believe that you are not alone, that a higher power is guiding your steps, fear loses its power. Let me share a simple daily life example. Think of a child learning how to walk. The child takes one step, then stumbles, takes another, then falls. But does the child stop walking forever? No. The child keeps going because the child doesn't know fear the way adults do. It is only later in life that we learn fear of failure, fear of embarrassment. Yet, isn't it true that we learned our most important skills, like walking and speaking, because we didn't allow fear to stop us? If a child gave up after the first fall, none of us would be walking today. This shows us that failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of success. Think also of people you admire. Do you believe they reached greatness because they never felt fear? No, they felt fear, but acted anyway. A brave person is not one who never feels fear, but one who chooses not to be controlled by it. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is moving forward despite it. Sometimes fear is nothing but an illusion created by the mind. How often do we lie awake at night, imagining worst-case scenarios? We picture everything falling apart. We rehearse conversations that may never happen. We carry worries about situations that may never come true. Most of the time, our fears are exaggerated shadows, and like shadows, they disappear when we bring in the light of awareness. When we pause, breathe, and remind ourselves of God's presence, the fear that looked so large begins to shrink. There is a story of a farmer whose fields were threatened by a storm. The villagers told him, "You will lose everything. Be afraid." But the farmer replied, "If the storm comes, I will learn to plant again. If my crops are destroyed, God will give me the strength to rebuild. Fear will not stop me from doing my duty today." That farmer understood a truth many of us forget. Fear cannot change the outcome, but it can paralyze us from taking action. When you live in fear, you shrink, you hold back, you live half a life. But when you break free, you expand. You discover new strengths, new opportunities, new experiences that were waiting for you all along. Think of the times in your own life when you were afraid but still moved forward. Perhaps it was your first time speaking in front of a crowd, or taking a big decision, or standing up for what you believed in. Looking back, you realize the fear was bigger in your mind than in reality. That's the lesson. Life rewards those who step beyond fear. So how do we break these chains? By trusting, by remembering that we are never alone, by reminding ourselves that God's wisdom is greater than our worries, and by taking small steps even when fear is loud. With each step, the chains grow weaker. With each act of courage, the prison walls collapse. The next time fear comes to you, don't run from it. Look at it. Talk to it. Tell it, "I know you are here, but you are not in control. My faith is stronger than you." And then take one step forward. That single step is enough to break the chain. My friends, do not let fear dictate your story. Do not let fear bury your dreams. Fear is powerful only if you surrender to it. But the moment you rise with courage and faith, you realize the truth. Fear was never the master. You were. God did not create you to live in chains. God created you to soar. So spread your wings, break free from fear, and watch how your life transforms. My dear friends, many people think that devotion to God is only about prayer, rituals, or words spoken in silence. While those are beautiful and necessary, true devotion goes beyond that. Real devotion is a way of living. It is found in the discipline of how we carry ourselves, how we use our time, how we take care of our body, and how we fulfill the responsibilities God has entrusted us with. Discipline is not separate from devotion. It is devotion. When you live with discipline, you are offering respect to the gift of life God has given you. Let us understand this. Imagine someone gives you a brand new car. It is beautiful, shining and powerful. But instead of taking care of it, you never clean it, you drive recklessly, you forget to put fuel in it, and you ignore when it needs maintenance. What will happen? The car will break down long before its time. Was the problem with the car? No, the problem was the lack of care. In the same way, God has given us a body, a mind, and time. If we live without discipline, we misuse these gifts. But when we care for them, respect them, and manage them well, we show devotion. Discipline begins with small, simple things. Waking up early, sleeping on time, eating food that nourishes the body instead of harms it, practicing self-control in speech, keeping promises, managing time with focus. These may look ordinary, but they are extraordinary acts of devotion. Why? Because when we discipline ourselves, we honor God's creation within us. Think of a musician who plays a beautiful instrument. Without daily practice, without tuning, without discipline, even the best instrument will sound out of harmony. Our life is that instrument. Without discipline, it becomes noisy, chaotic, and painful. But with discipline, it becomes a melody, a song of devotion that pleases both God and the people around us. Discipline is often misunderstood as restriction or punishment. Many people think, if I discipline my life, I will lose my freedom. But the truth is the opposite. Discipline is what gives freedom. Consider this. If you want to play the flute freely, you must first discipline your fingers to learn the notes. If you want to dance with grace, you must discipline your body with hours of practice. If you want to run with strength, you must discipline your muscles with training. Without discipline, there is no freedom, only weakness. With discipline, freedom becomes possible. In our daily lives, discipline shows itself in very practical ways. For example, when you wake up early instead of pressing the snooze button again and again, you are not just gaining more hours, you are showing respect for the day God has gifted you. When you manage your money wisely, avoiding waste and excess, you are not just being practical, you are honoring the resources God entrusted you with. When you speak with kindness and hold back anger, you are not just being polite, you are disciplining your emotions in devotion to God. There is also a deeper layer to discipline. Discipline is not only about outer habits, but also about inner control. How many times do we allow our mind to wander endlessly? How often do we get lost in unnecessary worries, scrolling endlessly through distractions, or chasing temporary pleasures? Discipline of the mind means guiding our thoughts to what uplifts us. It means choosing to focus on what is meaningful instead of wasting energy on what is useless. This mental discipline is one of the highest forms of devotion because it keeps us close to God's presence instead of being lost in noise. Let me share a simple example. Think of a student preparing for exams. If the student studies only when he feels like it, without schedule, without focus, what will happen? He will fail not because he lacked intelligence, but because he lacked discipline. Now compare this with someone who studies a little every day, consistently, with patience. That discipline turns ordinary effort into extraordinary success. Similarly, in life, devotion is not about doing something great once in a while. It is about doing small things consistently with love and discipline. There is a story of a monk who was asked, "How do you become so peaceful and wise?" He replied, "By living with discipline. Every day I wake up early, I pray, I serve, I eat simply, I control my words, and I rest on time." These small acts done daily create peace in the mind and purity in the heart. Notice, he did not mention grand miracles or big achievements. He mentioned discipline, and that is the truth. Greatness in life does not come from what we do once in a while. It comes from what we do every single day. Discipline shapes character, and character shapes destiny. If we want our life to be a true offering to God, then let our daily discipline be our prayer. So, my friends, let us not see discipline as a burden. Let us see it as devotion. Every time you wake up early, you are bowing to God by honoring His gift of time. Every time you choose healthy food, you are respecting the temple of your body that God created. Every time you control anger and choose patience, you are living the discipline of love that God expects from us. And every time you stick to your commitments, you are practicing devotion through honesty. Remember this: devotion without discipline is like a lamp without oil. It will burn for a moment and then fade away. But devotion with discipline is like a lamp kept full. It shines consistently, bringing light to you and to everyone around you. Therefore, let us live our lives with discipline, not as a form of restriction, but as the highest form of devotion. Because when you live with discipline, you are not only building success, you are building a life that reflects the divine order, balance, and beauty that God has already placed in the universe. My dear friends, the greatest power God has placed within us is the power of thought. Everything begins in the mind. Every action, every habit, every achievement, every failure, it all starts with a thought. If you want to change your life, if you truly want to change your world, then the first step is to change your thoughts. Because the reality is simply what we think we become. Our thoughts are like seeds. When you plant a seed of mango, you cannot expect to get apples. When you plant thorns, you cannot expect roses. In the same way, if we constantly plant seeds of negativity, worry, and doubt in our minds, how can we expect our lives to produce peace, joy, and success? Whatever you sow inside will eventually show outside. This is the law of life, a law designed by God Himself. Let me give you a daily life example. Imagine two people stuck in traffic. One person thinks, "This is terrible. My day is ruined. Why does this always happen to me?" The other person, in the same situation, thinks, "Maybe this delay is protecting me from something worse. Let me use this time to listen to something inspiring or reflect on my day." The traffic is the same, but their worlds are completely different. Why? Because their thoughts created two separate realities. This is the power of thought. It can either make your life heavy like a burden or light like a blessing. Often, we don't realize how much energy we waste on negative thinking. We keep replaying the same worries, the same fears, the same anger again and again in our minds. It is like carrying a heavy bag everywhere you go. You cannot run, you cannot fly, because the bag of negative thoughts weighs you down. But when you replace those thoughts with gratitude, with hope, with trust in God, it is like dropping that heavy bag. Suddenly you feel lighter, freer, and stronger. Have you ever noticed how the same situation can break one person but build another? The difference is not in the situation, it is in the thinking. One person says, "I failed, so I am worthless." Another says, "I failed, so I learned something valuable. Next time I will do better." Both failed, but one allowed the thought of failure to become a wall, while the other used it as a stepping stone. This is why I say, change your thoughts and you will change your world. There is a story of a young man who was always complaining. He told his teacher, "My life is full of problems. I don't think I can handle them anymore." The teacher handed him a glass of water and put a spoonful of salt in it. "Drink this," the teacher said. The young man drank and made a face. "It's too salty." The teacher then took him to a lake and poured the same spoon of salt into the water. "Now drink," he said. The young man drank and said, "It tastes fresh." The teacher smiled. "The salt is the same, but the container is different." When your mind is small and negative, every problem feels unbearable. But when your mind expands with positive thoughts, the same problem feels smaller. This story teaches us that our world is as big or as small as our thinking allows it to be. Changing thoughts does not mean ignoring reality. It doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing how to respond. Life is like a mirror. It reflects back what you put in front of it. If you stand in front of the mirror and frown, you see a frown. If you smile, you see a smile. Life is the same. If you fill it with bitterness, it reflects bitterness. If you fill it with positivity and trust in God, it reflects blessings. Let us also understand that positive thinking is not just wishful thinking. It is a disciplined practice. Just as a gardener pulls out weeds regularly, we must pull out weeds of doubt and replace them with seeds of faith. For example, when your mind says, "I can't do this," discipline yourself to say, "With God's help, I can." When your mind says, "This is impossible," tell yourself, "If I keep trying, something good will happen." Slowly, the mind learns a new pattern, and that pattern changes the direction of your life. Think of successful athletes, leaders, or even ordinary people who live extraordinary lives. What sets them apart is not that they never face struggles. They face as many struggles, if not more. What sets them apart is their inner conversation. They train their thoughts to support them, not sabotage them. They feed their minds with strength, faith, and determination instead of fear and doubt. And as a result, their outer world reflects their inner strength. In your own life, ask yourself, what thoughts am I feeding? Are they thoughts of fear, anger, and hopelessness? Or are they thoughts of gratitude, courage, and trust? Because whichever thoughts you feed, those will grow, and whatever grows inside will eventually shape your world outside. So, my friends, if you truly want to change your world, start today by changing just one thought. Replace one negative thought with a positive one. Replace one word of complaint with a word of gratitude. Replace one moment of doubt with a moment of trust. And you will see, step by step, how your inner world transforms. And when the inner world transforms, the outer world cannot remain the same. The truth is simple: your thoughts are the architects of your destiny. Build them wisely, and your life will stand strong, no matter the storms. Build them carelessly, and even small winds will shake you. God has given us the mind as a powerful tool. Let us not waste it on self-doubt and fear. Let us use it to create a life of purpose, joy, and peace. Change your thoughts, and you will surely change your world.